But what do they mean for the candidates, particularly in Iowa? We're digging into 3 this morning.
Team Rising is here with their analysis. Deshandra Jefferson is a Democratic strategist, and Marissa Martinez is a Republican strategist who previously served as political director for Governor Charlie Baker's re-election campaign. Welcome back to you both. Great friends of the show.
Thank you.
So, fascinating new Iowa poll here. We've got a moment that's kind of shocked the political world. Pete Buttigieg is now sitting atop the race, 22%. Joe Biden, 19%. Elizabeth Warren, 18%. Bernie Sanders at 13%. We should caution everybody. There is another University of Iowa Hawkeye poll, which tells a very different story of Elizabeth Warren, Bernie Sanders, Pete Buttigieg, and Joe Biden there. So Pete Buttigieg more aligned with Joe Biden. Deshandra, do I think he's at the top of the field in Iowa? Probably not. But is it undeniable that he's, maybe sitting in the third, maybe second place? Seems pretty likely. Why do you think that is?
Well, first of all, Mark Twain once said there are 3 types of lies: lies, damn lies, and statistics.
Yes,
if you were alive today, he'd say the polls are one of those lies. I mean, let's face it. We're going to be talking about different polls today. I think that Buttigieg, he has had a strong race thus far. He has had a very strong campaign thus far. Is he a front runner? Yes. How long will it last? I mean, let's be honest. One of the things we've got to look at is, we always talk about Iowa being the first in the nation, but California has that early primary. California is a delegate-rich state, much more diverse, and I think much more reflective of the Democratic poll overall.
I think you're right.
Well, and that's, if we can put up the other poll, and we'll just put them all into the mix here from Morning Consult, which we really like this poll. It's only got a margin of error of plus or minus 1 point, so this is very good. This is the national picture. Shows a very different positioning for Mayor Pete, because basically Iowa and New Hampshire are essentially, the overwhelming majority white states. The rest of the country, the rest of the Democratic primary electorate looks very different.
Yeah, it definitely looks different. And I think one of the things to note in the Iowa poll that we just saw right now is 3 out of 10 caucus goers have not even made up their minds yet. So it's a tad bit early, in my opinion, to be solely focusing in on some of these stats and calling them 100% true.
Yeah, and of course Bloomberg is going to change the race.
Bloomberg, watch out.
And Deval Patrick and Eric Holder and maybe even Hillary Clinton. So this wide open.
I love these polls because they're good snapshots. I think much more of media than of anything else, right? So Pete Buttigieg has gotten the most earned media than anybody else. Largely, Nate Silver had a great analysis on this, which is basically he had a 1% bump, and the media was like, "Oh my God, he's having a crazy bump," and now he's got like a 5, maybe like 6% bump, which is a lot of this is a function of earned media. Elizabeth Warren had a ton of earned media. That is ultimately what kind of vaulted her up. She drew a lot, especially from Kamala Harris's complete collapse. Buttigieg seems to be doing much the same thing. I think it really does, Deshandra, though, come down to your complete lock on people. And that is the one thing that we've talked about here. Bernie supporters are the people who are with him no matter what. Joe Biden supporters are with him no matter what. Warren and Buttigieg have many fair weather fans.
Well, you have to also think about what drives, the news. What is interesting? What is the conflict? And so what's the new narrative? And Pete Buttigieg, he has a really good story. And his quick rise is something for the media to talk about. I mean, how often are we going to talk about Biden? I mean, obviously I'm a Democrat. I'm not getting excited about hearing another Joe Biden story. So a lot of it is a function of, whose name is out there, who has a name recognition. And right now, Pete is riding that wave. How long it will last, I don't know.
Right.
I mean, you live by the media, you die by the media.
Well, and to that point, who does the media mostly cater to? It's this sort of like affluent white liberal, and they're the people who seem to be shifting around the most. First there was Beto, and then there was Kamala, then there's Warren, and now there's Pete. And I think to your point, Marissa, about the unsettled nature of the primary, they're the ones who are sort of shifting around and trying to find the perfect candidate who's going to be this year's Obama or whatever it is that they're looking for.
Yeah, and I think to your point as well, this is really just a snapshot into, who's kind of the hot topic of the day in the media. Like you said, we've seen that before, and I think we'll continue to see that nonetheless. But these 2 polls are completely different. And looking at where Biden is, though, on our other polls, kind of it makes you want to take a little bit of a back seat and say, wow.
That is to that point. So the way I see it is this 3 things, they tell us there are 2 ways that this whole thing goes, which is that Biden emerges from Iowa and New Hampshire, having placed maybe 4th in Iowa, 2nd, maybe 1st in New Hampshire, maybe not the first strong showing, and then hoping to God that the black voters in South Carolina stick with him. Deshandra, do you think that is I mean, we've talked about this before. That is a very risky strategy, but it's certainly possible.
Play out that way.
Certainly possible, and then he could sweep through Super Tuesday, California, and win the entire nomination.
It's very possible. The thing is, though, Biden doesn't have a lock on the black vote. I mean, his proximity to Obama, his name recognition has certainly been helpful. But Elizabeth Warren has been making gains. And I think it's certainly possible, like if a Duval Patrick jumps in the race, God help him. I mean, like he can, do decently in South Carolina.
Sure.
You shouldn't put all your eggs in one basket.
Yeah.
And if Biden has to wait till South Carolina to really get out there, he's supposed to be the front runner. He's supposed to be. Yes, supposed to. Let's say it all together. He's supposed to be the front runner. That's not a front runner strategy.
I actually wanted to get your thoughts specifically on Deval Patrick. There seems to be sort of a clamoring for an alternative from some of the donor class in the Democratic Party, Bloomberg, now Patrick, all these people. Do you think that he could, I think that is the bet exactly, is that maybe he could cut into the African-American vote for Joe Biden in South Carolina in particular. Do you think that's realistic, and how well known is he?
I think it's possible. How realistic it is, I don't know, because I don't know how much support he's really going to have. He's coming so late in the game. He has a lot of territory to make up. I mean, yes, people are going to look at him and like, oh, he's a very charismatic speaker.
He's talented, yeah.
He's very talented. He does have some of that Obama magic to him, but people still don't know him. He really has to introduce himself to the larger electorate. I think he will take some votes, but I don't think he'll necessarily, obliterate, Joe Biden in South Carolina. We could say the same thing about Kamala Harris. She's a black woman, but she's really had some. Really had some, tough debates. I mean, she came out strong in June, and since then has faltered. I don't think she'll make it to South Carolina. And if she does, she'll have a little bit of support that might eat into Biden, but not a whole heck of a lot.
Yeah, that's just not how voters vote at the end of the day. Ladies, stick with us.
Yes.
We're going to have more Rising right after this.